This is a picture of Larry Youngblood, who was accused for raping and kidnapping a 10 years old boy. Horrible crime that took place in Arizona. Larry Youngblood was an exoneree that I will be talking to you about, who was convicted for molesting, sexually assaulting, and kidnapping a child. In 1985, there was a there was a carnival that was in Pima Country in Arizona. It was stated that there was a 10 years old boy who was kidnapped and raped in that carnival. He was raped and sodomized repeatedly for over an hour from a middle-aged man. Where the staff of the hospital detected the victim, they collected semen samples from his rectum. Rectum is the final section in the large intestine, and the clothes that he was wearing when he was raped and attacked. The assaulted boy started describing the man who kidnapped him, and he said that he had an disfigured eye. Larry Youngblood was charged for this awful crime because the boy's description matched him. The jury convicted him because the victim's analysis and description really matched Larry. Larry Youngblood was arrested and put on trial based on eyewitness identification, mostly and not other evidences. It was also said that there were no serological tests conducted before his trial and the police stored the evidence improperly. During Youngblood's trial, the expert witness asked if the evidence were stored correctly and stated that the test results may conclude that Youngblood was innocent and not guilty. He appealed to the conviction and he requested a retesting of evidence that were held against him. But Arizona Court of Appeals, where he requested his conviction, set his conviction aside. He was released in 1988 and he remained free out of prison until the case made its way through the Arizona appellate court system for the second time. But later on, he returned to prison one more time in 1993 because the Arizona Supreme Court reinstalled his conviction. In 1998, Youngblood was released in apparel but was sent back to prison in 1999 for failing to register his new address, as required by Arizona sex offender laws. His lawyer in 2000 asked the police department to use the sophisticated DNA technology to make sure that 100% he is guilty. But the results proved that Youngblood was innocent, and in August 2000 he was released from prison. In that year, the district attorney dismissed all the charges that were against him. The DNA profile from evidence was entered into the National Convicted Offender databases. The information matched a guy who was also blind in one eye. His name is Walter Cruz. He was serving at the time in Texas. In August 2002, he was put on trial and the court declared that he was convicted of the crime of the young boy, and he was sentenced to 24 years in prison. CODI stands for Combined DNA Index System. It's the genetic term used to describe the FBI's program of support for criminal justice DNA databases, as well as the software used to run these databases. There are two types of analyzing the DNA, the STRS and the RFLP. STRs used in DNA profiling are from the non-coding regions. These are short tandem repeats. One simple motif of usually 4 to 5 BP is repeated many times. Number of those repeats is different in different people, and if you analyze sufficient number of loci, you will be able to distinguish persons. The STR was established since there are DNA that were cut into smaller parts than the ones that are used by the RFLP. The RFLP stands for Restriction Fragment Length Polymorphisms. They are DNA fragments of different length created by the activity of restriction enzymes. Since restriction enzymes cut only a certain sequence, the resultant is DNA fragment of a certain length between those sequences. We also differ in length of those fragments between palindromes, so it can be used for DNA profiling, although it's not very much used now, at least not forensics. But that was the one used for Larry's case, since it was before year 2000.